Welcome to HFY Sci-Fi Galaxy. Today I am going to explain a wonderful story. Now, let's begin. The trap was perfect, which was the first sign it was about to go catastrophically wrong. At least for the trappers, Fleet Lord Vorix of the Scary, Supreme Commander of the Concord's 9th Pacification Fleet, surveyed his holographic plot with the serene confidence of a predator whose prey had just wandered into the killing ground. His fleet, a wall of brutalist, city-sized dreadnoughts and sleek, predatory cruisers, lay in wait in the shadow of Jupiter. The gas giant's immense gravity well was a cage of physics, a dead-end street for any FTL system, but especially for the new, gimmicky drives the upstart humans used. Here, their ridiculous phase skipping would be neutered. They would be forced to fight on Concord terms, a slugging match of plasma and kinetics. The Alien Council had predicted humanity's defeat in days. Vorix, a favored protege of the influential Counselor Trix, intended to deliver it in hours, securing his mentor's political dominance and his own place in history. Fleet Lord, his tactical officer purred, her vocal nodules clicking softly, like dry leaves skittering across pavement. Human fleet elements detected. They are holding position well outside the gravity well. Exactly as intelligence from the prototypes predicted. Vorix noted the faint hum of the ship's subspace resonance dampener, a new countermeasure against human sensor ghosts. Ordered by Trix himself. Overkill, Vorix thought. But the counselor was prone to paranoia. Of course they are, Vorix rumbled, satisfaction vibrating in his chest. They are arrogant. They believe their little trick makes them invincible. Lure them in. Launch the bait squadron. On the bridge of the United Nations ship Churchill, Commander Soren Vell watched the same view screen. It was a clean, minimalist interface of blue and red icons hanging in the silent emptiness of deep space. 3 red icons detached from the main Concorde fleet and began a slow, deliberate burn toward the human fleet. They've deployed the bait, sir, his tactical officer, Lieutenant Kenji Lee, reported. His voice was flat, but Soren saw the tension in his jaw. Lee's family lived on the Gani meat colony, right next to the cage the Concorde had built. For him, this wasn't strategy. It was exterminating pests from his backyard. Soren leaned back in his command chair, the worn moleskin on his left armrest cool beneath his hand. He felt the familiar cold weight of history settling on his shoulders. He had seen this pattern 100 times in his studies, Cannae, where the arrogant Romans charged into the Carthaginian envelope. Trafalgar, where the combined fleet sailed into Nelson's unconventional line. The powerful, convinced of their own superiority, laying a clumsy trap for the nimble underdog. The script was ancient, they're following it to the letter. Commander, came a voice over the command channel, sharp with eagerness. Captain Lena Noak of the frigate UNS Icarus, his former student from the academy. Brighter than any of them, and twice as bold, shall we oblige them? Negative, Lena, Soren said quietly, his voice carrying across the hushed bridge. They've written their own script. We're just here to provide the ending. He keyed the fleet-wide channel, his gaze fixed on the crimson swarm waiting by the gas giant. All vessels, this is Vel. They've activated their dampeners. They think it will blind us. They're wrong. The churn of spacetime is thick today. It's a gamble, but we're taking it. Execute Agincourt. Across the human fleet, 24 ships did something that defied conventional physics. They didn't vanish, they flexed spacetime, punching open momentary windows into a dimension where distance was meaningless. They disappeared from one set of spacetime coordinates and reappeared at another. The energy released left behind a wavering, unstable echo in the fabric of the universe. A scar of displaced reality that would disrupt local FTL for hours. Aboard the Concorde flagship Iron Hegemon, a klaxon blared, energy spike. Massive spacetime displacement. The tactical officer shrieked, her composure shattering. The signatures, they're inside the fleet's formation. The trap has failed. Fleet Lord Vorix stared, uncomprehending. The human fleet hadn't moved. They had arrived. Blue icons bloomed like a fatal rash in the heart of his fleet, spitting out smaller, faster signatures. Before he could issue a single order, the dying began. There were no torpedo trails, no incoming plasma bolts. The humans' arrival had so violently agitated spacetime that their ordnance could ride the instability. Phase-guided torpedoes, unable to make a full jump themselves, simply surfed the chaotic wake of the capital ships. For the first 9,000 kilometers, they were conventional missiles. For the final 10 meters, they performed a single violent microskip, bypassing meters of armor and layers of kinetic barriers to rematerialize inside a reactor core, a bridge, a munitions depot. From the Churchill, Soren watched red icons wink out one after another. A cruiser, its spine snapped by a torpedo that appeared in its power conduit. A dreadnought, its bridge blossoming into a brief, silent flower of fire and vaporized metal. But it wasn't perfect. A spread of torpedoes aimed at a Retaliator-class battlecruiser flickered out of existence 100 meters short of the target, their microphase failing in a patch of stable spacetime. Scarred but alive, the battlecruiser returned fire with a savage volley of plasma. Agincourt was a gamble. And the dice didn't always roll your way. Still, the effect was devastating. Their command ship is venting atmosphere, Lee reported, his voice tight with awe. The Iron Hegemon is gone. Vorax is gone. The Concorde fleet broke. What was left scattered, a panicked flight of wounded animals. Commander, Lena's voice crackled over comms, sharp with adrenaline. A Vindicator-class cruiser is making a run for it. They're damaged, but their drive is still hot. Requesting permission to pursue. Negative, Icarus, Soren ordered, his grip tightening on his armrest. Hold your positions. The trap is sprung. The objective is complete. The spacetime echo makes the field unstable. Another jump is too risky. They're getting away, Soren. They were firing on Ghani an hour ago, we can't let them. Commander Noak, that is an order. A beat of charged silence. Then a clipped, rebellious, acknowledged. But the blue icon of the Icarus broke from the human line. Engines flaring as it gave chase, Lena was always a creature of the moment. A brilliant tactician who sometimes forgot the larger map. She saw an enemy escaping, a loose thread that needed pulling. Lena, goddammit. Get back here, Soren muttered, knuckles white. The Icarus closed the distance, pushing its drive for one more short skip through the chaotic spacetime wake. Overextension. A classic mistake. And the universe always punished classic mistakes. A Concorde scout ship, overlooked in the chaos, emerged from the shadow of a dying dreadnought. It fired a single, desperate volley of plasma. The shots weren't aimed at the Churchill or the main fleet. They tore into the Icarus as it reappeared. Its shields flickering from the strain of the jump, Lena's icon flared red, then went dark, signal lost from the Icarus. Lee whispered. Soren felt a cold hollowness spread through his chest. The scout ship changed course. Not away, but toward the fresh wreckage. What are they doing? Soren asked, his voice raw. They're scanning the debris field, sir, Lee said, confused. Locking on to something. It looks like they're using a tractor beam. A moment later, his eyes widened in horror. Sir. They've salvaged a piece of the wreckage. The energy signature, it's the phase drive core housing. They've got the core. The scout ship's engines flared and it vanished into the relative safety of conventional hyperspace. The Concorde's grand fleet was a glittering junkyard of shattered ambition. Total engagement time, 4 minutes, 19 seconds. On the bridge of the Churchill, no one spoke. In an opulent, sterile chamber deep within the Concorde capital on Scar, Counselor Trix watched the last tactical replay from the scout ship. He saw the Iron Hegemon die. He saw the fleet his influence had built, the fleet commanded by Vorax, his sharpest, most promising student, vaporized in moments. He saw the human frigate Icarus fall. And he saw his foresight rewarded, as the scout's tractor beam secured the prize. It is done, Counselor, reported his aide, a young scary named Nia. Her voice trembled. The 9th Fleet is gone. Fleet Lord Vorax is confirmed lost. Trix said nothing. He replayed the moment Vorax's flagship winked out of existence. He had mentored the boy, guided him, seen a reflection of his own ambition in his eyes. And the humans had snuffed him out like a candle. A cold, black fury began to solidify in his gut. A singularity of grief and rage. The door to his chamber chimed. Two senior members of the High Council entered without waiting for permission, cloaked in the arrogance of their ancient lineages. "Tricks," Councillor Vor hissed. "Your glorious war has cost us a pacification fleet. Your strategies have failed. Your protégé is dead. The core worlds are demanding answers. They are demanding your resignation. The humans used a technology far beyond what all intelligence suggested," Trix said, his voice dangerously calm. "They cheated. They won." The second counselor, Morix, sneered. "And you lost. You assured us this would be a demonstration of scary strength. Instead, it is a monument to your incompetence. The Council is considering a vote of no confidence. You are weak, Trix, and the Concord has no place for weakness." They turned and left, leaving the scent of political predation in the air. Trix stood motionless, his back to Nia. The humiliation, the loss, the threat to his power, it all coalesced around the core of his grief. They had called him weak. He would show them strength. A strength they could not even comprehend. "Nia," he whispered, his voice low and cold. "Activate my private channel to the Helios division. Tell Dr. Anox that his theoretical work is now a practical necessity. Tell him the scythe of retribution contingency is fully active. He has the human drive core. I want a timetable." He turned, and his aide recoiled from the look in his eyes. It was not the face of a politician who had lost a battle, it was the face of a zealot who had found a cause. He would not just avenge Vorax. He would not just save his career. He would burn the memory of this failure from the galaxy. And he would use humanity's own fire to do it. A week later, the view screen on the Churchill's bridge was a field of serene green icons, a testament to a victory so total it felt obscene. All except for one ghost gray marker labeled UNS Icarus. Lost with all hands. 112 souls, starting with Commander Lena Noak. Soren stared at it, the single, bloody cost of their lightning-fast war. Victory felt less like triumph and more like a bill coming due. He had won the battle in minutes, but he had lost Lena. It was a poor trade. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message from High Command. Lee routed it to Soren's private console. He opened it, expecting commendations. Instead, he found new orders and a data packet, from Admiral Stanford, to Commander Vell, UNS Churchill, subject, post-conflict realignment. 1. The Agincourt strike contained a secondary payload, a data worm that infected the Concord fleet comms. It has since spread across their hyperwave network. It did not shut them down. It did worse. It decrypted and disseminated decades of classified scary directives, corruption files, and resource-hoarding ledgers to every Concord member world simultaneously. 2. The loss of the Ninth Fleet was a spark. Our data worm was a gallon of gasoline. The secession crisis is underway. Multiple key systems are in open revolt. We predict total collapse of Concord governance within weeks. The galaxy is coming apart at the seams. 3. Your battle group is hereby redesignated. You are promoted to acting Commodore and placed in command of the newly formed Humanitarian Engagement Command, HEC. 4. Your primary mission is no longer combat. It is stabilization, provide aid, mitigate refugee crises, and establish diplomatic channels with emerging factions. Prevent the power vacuum from becoming a black hole. 5. We broke it. Now we own it. Make no sacrifice worth more than a single glorious minute. Soren closed the message. Humanitarian Engagement Command. He did not see it as a promotion but as a life sentence. He had trained his entire life to be a historian and a warrior, to understand the sharp, clean geometry of battle. Now they wanted him to be a diplomat. A politician. A saint. He pulled up a live feed of Galactic news. A Drow ambassador storming out of the council chambers in fury. Riots on a subjugated Aven world. A cyborg corporate state announcing formal secession from the Concord. It was happening. A centuries-old empire dissolving before his eyes. And he was supposed to clean it up. In his quarters, Soren rewatched the file for the 10th time. It wasn't a battle log. It was Lena's old tactical presentation at the academy. She stood before a holographic display, eyes bright, burning with ferocious intellect, arguing for a more aggressive use of phased doctrine. Caution is the father of defeat, sir, she said, staring directly at him in the front row. To hold a weapon like this and not use it to its fullest, most shocking potential is a failure of nerve. Not a triumph of strategy. He had given her a low mark for recklessness, for failing to account for the unpredictable. Now, her ghost still haunted the room. He had been right about the unpredictable, the scout ship, the salvaged core. But she had been right about the shocking potential. He had followed her doctrine at Agincourt. And now the galaxy was on fire. Was this the legacy she would have wanted? A war won, only to be replaced by 1,000 smaller, dirtier wars. He didn't know. He only knew her sacrifice had to mean more than a successful gamble. He had to prove his caution had a purpose. He had to build something from the ashes. Elsewhere, Lieutenant Kira Monroe kicked the wall of her quarters. A satisfying thump echoed through the cramped space. Grounded, she muttered. For conduct unbecoming and reckless endangerment of allocated assets. She flopped onto her bunk, staring at the gray ceiling. After Agincourt, she'd requested transfer to a scout squadron, anything to be at the sharpest point of the spear. Denied. She had argued. The captain had called it insubordination. She called it routine. Now she was confined to quarters while the rest of the newly christened HEC handed out blankets and soup. Boredom was a physical enemy, and Kira Monroe was losing. A console ping, funds transfer confirmation. Most of her pay routed to the Hawking Institute of Synaptic Regeneration on Mars. She glanced at the small, worn hollow puck on her desk, a smiling boy, maybe 10 years old, with her same unruly black hair and mischievous eyes. Frozen in time before the shuttle accident. Before the screaming metal. Before the failure of a pilot who was supposed to protect him, her recklessness in the cockpit paid for the stillness of his life in a medical bed. It was her penance. She shoved the thought away. Official channels were locked out. Unofficial ones. A pilot's playground. She wasn't just bored. She was hunting. For weeks, she tracked whispers in the maintenance comms, rumors of unmarked ships hitting convoys in the outer sectors. Black ops stuff. The kind of fight high command ignored. The kind that paid hazard bonuses, a few lines of code, a favor called in from a hangar tech named S, who thought she'd been unfairly grounded, and she was into the raw data stream. S had given her a backdoor into old Concord comm protocols, a chaotic mess of overlapping channels. Most of it was garbage. Then, a flicker. A military encrypted signal. Frantic. Desperate. On a channel reserved for Drow auxiliaries. A channel that should have been silent. She ran it through the translator. The words came fragmented. But clear. Distress. Civilian transport Star Wanderer. Drow registry. Under attack by Concord Black Fleet. Repeat. There are no pirates. This is a kill order. Shields failing. Boarding parties inbound. They know Corin is here. Mayday. Kira leaned forward, boredom evaporating. Concord Black Fleet. A descendant. This wasn't piracy. It was assassination. And it was happening now. She pinged S on a secure text-only channel. I need a ride. Hot streak. Hangar Bay 9. Can you cover me with a fake 2-hour diagnostic order? Reply was instant. For you, Monroe. I'll make it look like the Admiral himself ordered it. Don't get yourself killed, not on my watch, Kira whispered, a fierce grin spreading. This was it. A real fight. A chance to matter. Stealing her own fighter was a masterpiece of misdirection. Flooded the hangar systems with fake alerts, sending the skeleton crew scurrying. Kira suited up, walking calmly to her F-77 strike fighter, hot streak, already prepped and humming. "All right, girl," she murmured, running her hands over the controls. "Let's stretch our legs." She slipped from the Churchill's hangar behind a lumbering cargo shuttle, her emissions masked. Once clear, she went cold, drifting like debris, before punching the throttle and rocketing toward the last known coordinates of the Star Wanderer. She found them 20 minutes later. The scene matched the distress call exactly. A massive civilian hauler, shields flickering like a dying candle, hammered by two sleek black cruisers. No markings. But brutally efficient. This was an execution. Unidentified aggressors. "This is United Nations pilot Kira Monroe," she broadcast on open channel. "You are attacking a civilian transport. Cease fire and withdraw immediately, or I will open fire." One cruiser broke off, turning toward her. The reply came cold. "Electronic, irrelevant vessel. You are interfering with a Concorde internal security matter. Leave this area, or be destroyed." Internal security? Kira scoffed, her hands flying across the console, arming kinetic cannons and missile pods. "You're a little behind on the news. Okay, boys, you wanted to dance. Let's dance." The black cruiser opened fire, plasma bolts streaking past. Kira threw Hotstreak into a spiraling dive, the blasts grazing her canopy. She came up under the ship's belly, a blind spot in most designs, and raked its engine housing with kinetic rounds. Armor plating exploded into the void. The cruiser shuddered, its main drive sputtering. The second ship, seeing its partner wounded, shifted focus to her. This was what Kira lived for, the terrifying, crystalline clarity of battle. No past. No future. Only the next maneuver, the next shot, the next split-second decision. For 10 minutes, Kira Monroe was a demon in the dark. She couldn't destroy them, but she could bleed them, shredding sensors, gutting point defense turrets, and dancing around their main guns. At last, one cruiser trailed plasma from a crippled engine while the other limped away into hyperspace, not before firing a tight beam burst back toward the Concorde core. A shaken voice came over comms from the drowned transport. "Human pilot. You saved us." It was the captain, an old weary male named Grath. "Not yet, I haven't," Kira replied, breath ragged. She checked her readouts, fuel low, ammo critical. "They'll be back. Or they'll send friends. That ship of yours, it's a Q ship, isn't it? Any tricks left?" A pause, a refueling boom, a small industrial fabricator. "Some stealth systems, but they need time to recharge," Grath admitted. "Good. Get those engines spooled and that boom ready. We're going to need both." Kira knew what she had just done, painted a target on her own back, and on the transport she was now sworn to protect. The next 48 hours blurred into exhaustion, adrenaline, and jury-rigged engineering. Star Wanderer was slow. The Black Fleet was relentless. They attacked in waves, probing strikes, feints, and full-on assaults. Kira fought them all, but it was a war of attrition she couldn't win. Missiles ran dry the first day. Resource management became survival. "Monroe, this is Grath," the drowned captain's voice crackled. "We've got a window," the fabricator just spit out the last batch of kinetic slugs. "We're out of raw material." "Understood," Kira replied, voice hoarse. "I'm coming in." Guiding Hotstreak toward the lumbering transport, she docked with the extended refueling boom. The clamps jolted home. Fuel flowed. A hatch opened, and the crew began shoving scrap into her ammo feeds, conduit. "Deck plates, even a galley stove, you're feeding me your kitchen?" Kira asked, incredulous. "A well-fed pilot is a happy pilot," Grath replied, a faint note of drowned humor. "Even if she's firing cookware at the enemy." The absurdity pierced her exhaustion. Kira laughed, raw, ragged, real. in quiet moments, she spoke with the crew, engineers patching holes, medics tending the wounded, and Corin, the terrified scientist who had once worked for Trix. "They will not stop," he whispered, voice trembling. "You don't understand what he's trying to protect." "Then we won't let him get it," Kira answered, her voice steadier than she felt, but the past was never far. During one brutal assault, plasma struck Star Wanderer's bridge. Hot streak still clamped, Kira was thrown against her restraints. The alarm screamed. Flashing red light. The same sound. The same smell of burning electronics. The memory of her brother's hand slipping away. "Kara, report. Are you all right?" Grath's voice cut through the haze. Kira swallowed hard. "I'm fine," she lied. Her hands shook. "Get those shields back up." She wasn't running from her past anymore. It was riding shotgun. The only way to silence it was to see this through, not to fail again. During a lull, she intercepted the last Black Ops cruiser's dying transmission before it self-destructed. Her systems flagged and captured a fragment. It was gibberish, but it was something. She tucked it away, turning back to the long, slow journey ahead. On the drowned homeworld, windswept mesas, amber skies, Officer Primus Ether stood before a holographic scary functionary. The alien's face was carved from condescension. "As the Concord undergoes reorganization," the scary droned, "all mutual defense pacts are hereby suspended. Your security is now your own responsibility. The Third Loyalist Fleet will remain only to ensure stability." Ether's claws dug into the console. Generations of drowned conscripts had died for the Concord. The Ninth Fleet, gone. Resources hoarded while colonies starved. Now, abandonment. "We have given centuries of service," Ether growled, "a regrettable but necessary expenditure," the scary replied. "A final directive has been issued regarding your species. You are to be commended for your final contribution." The transmission ended, leaving behind a data packet. Ether's aide opened it. Buried in technical jargon was a single chilling line: "Assets in your sector reassigned. Contingency plan, Scythe of Retribution, activated." Ether had heard whispers. A doomsday weapon. A myth. Not anymore. Loyalty curdled to ash. They had never been allies. They had been fuel. Survival now meant something unthinkable: alliance with the monsters who had shattered the Ninth Fleet. Commodore Soren stood on the blackened soil of Draco Prospect. His first humanitarian mission was already a failure. Starving miners, poisoned by Trix's propaganda, met his convoy not with relief, but with rocks and hatred. "We don't want your poisoned food, human." The foreman shrieked, mandibles dripping. "We saw what you did to the Gar. We will not be your slaves." "The footage is a lie," Soren said firmly. "We are here to help. We would rather starve than eat from a monster's hand." Stones struck his marines' helmets. They tensed, rifles ready. Soren raised a hand. "Hold your fire. We are not them." But Trix's war wasn't only one of weapons. It was despair, sharpened into a blade. "Fall back," Soren ordered, heavy with defeat. "Leave the supplies. Hunger may win where we cannot." Later, aboard Churchill, Lee approached him. "Sir, we intercepted something strange. Plain text, but odd. It's a mathematical proof. My sister says it ties to temporal tunneling. Could be a hidden message." "Crack it," Soren ordered. An hour later, "Coordinates, sir. A neutral moon in the Serpenta system. A time. Whoever sent this wants a meeting. On a barren moonlet of dust and stone." Soren stepped out alone. A lone figure awaited, a drowned officer in battle armor. "Commodore Vale," the figure said. "I am Officer Primus Ether." "Officer Primus," Soren acknowledged. "Your message was novel. Desperate times demand novel approaches," Ether replied. "The Concord is overextended. I possess locations of their fuel depots and comm relays across this sector. And your price? Soren asked. My homeworld is under blockade. My broodkin ration water. I give you intelligence. You break the blockade. A transactional offer. Soren respected that. A direct assault is risky. The risk of inaction is greater, Ether countered. For both of us. Trix will not rebuild. His vision is scorched earth. He will burn everything before admitting defeat, Avier said quietly. But there is a deeper threat, Commodore, a secret he guards above all else. Prove yourself a worthy ally by liberating my people, and I will show you the true face of the man you are fighting. She was holding something back, her final bargaining chip. Soren studied her. A fellow commander, cornered by circumstance. At last, he made his decision, agreed. Send me the data. As the intelligence streamed to his console, another priority message arrived, this one from Kira Monroe. It was a detailed mission log of her unsanctioned operation, the Black Fleet engagement, the Q-ship rescue, and attached to it, a corrupted fragment of a data burst. Most of it was noise, but the computer managed to isolate 3 legible words: Scythe. Helios. Anax. Soren didn't know what it meant, but he felt in his gut it was another piece of a puzzle he had only just begun to see. Using Avier's intelligence, his fleet struck with surgical precision. Lightning-fast phase attacks decapitated the Loyalist fleet's command ships and supply lines. In under an hour, the blockade of the drowned homeworld was shattered. When Soren's shuttle landed in the Grand Plaza of their capital, Officer Primus Avier was waiting. The transaction was complete. The alliance could begin. You have honored our agreement, Commodore, she said later, in private. The formal title remained, but her tone had changed. There was respect. Now I will show you the true face of Trix. Soren slid a datapad across the table. First, I want to show you something my pilot recovered. He played the data fragment. Scythe. Helios. Anax. For a fraction of a second, Avier's composure faltered. Shock flickered across her face before she mastered it. Your pilot. She said slowly. She was defending the Star Wanderer. She was, Soren confirmed. And the descendant on that ship, his name is Corin. He is the galaxy's foremost expert in applied temporal mechanics. Anax is the research station he once worked at, in the Helios system. Avier drew a long, steady breath. The deeper threat I mentioned, Commodore, Trix calls it the Scythe of Retribution. She activated a holodisplay. A schematic appeared. Soren felt his stomach sink. He recognized it immediately, a human phase-skipping drive. But twisted, jury-rigged, integrated into a monstrous device. This is the salvage core from your frigate, the Icarus, Avier explained grimly. Trix is not building a weapon to attack your fleet. He is building a device to destabilize the Helios star. Corin's work. Trix will use the drive to inject a temporal payload directly into its photosphere, triggering a premature supernova. He will kill billions across half a dozen worlds. And the energy signature, it will look human. The blood drained from Soren's face. Lena's legacy. His greatest failure twisted into the ultimate atrocity. The device is shielded, Avier continued. Powered by something he stole from my people generations ago, a sacred artifact we call the Heart of the Mountain. Its transdimensional properties make it immune to your phase torpedoes. But Corin, the man your pilot just saved, is the only person alive who knows how to disable it. Kira's insubordination hadn't just saved a ship. She had saved the one key to stopping genocide. The briefing room aboard the Churchill was tense. Soren stood before the newly formed coalition squadron. He had made his choice, Lieutenant Monroe, he said, his voice steady and commanding. There are those who would have you court-martialed, who call you insubordinate and reckless. But your recklessness has handed us the key to preventing the greatest atrocity in galactic history. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of pilots both human and drowned. I am not a man who praises recklessness. I am a historian. And history teaches us that sometimes the fate of empires rests on the shoulders of those willing to break the rules, for the right reasons. Lieutenant Monroe will lead this strike. Kira rose to her feet, stunned. The squadron was mixed, human veterans, drowned pilots loyal to Avier. One of them, a hotshot named Rurik who had often mocked her for coddling rookies, now regarded her with quiet respect. The stellar destabilizer sits on a fortified asteroid in the Helio system, Kira began, finding her voice. Our job is to provide cover for the drowned EVA team. They will spacewalk to the device, remove the heart of the mountain artifact, and drop the shields. The team will consist of Captain Roken leading the security detail, with Korin guiding them. Roken, tall and powerfully built, stepped forward. His face was unreadable. Korin is no soldier. He is terrified. My job is to get him there and back. Yours is to keep us alive long enough to finish. Kira nodded. We buy them the time they need. Questions? There were none. The mission was insane. But it was their only shot. The Helios run was chaos. Remnants of the Concord, still loyal to Trix, threw themselves at the coalition with suicidal fury. Talon leader to coalition, keep that perimeter tight. Nothing gets through. Kira shouted. Her fighter bucking under fire. On the EVA channel, the drama unfolded. The clamps are fused. Korin's voice cracked with panic. The artifact's feedback, it's welding them shut. I can't. Calm your breathing, Doctor, Roken said, impossibly steady. Focus on the sequence. I'll handle the clamps. A grunt. Screeching metal, then a Concorde destroyer emerged, its cannons charging, aimed straight at the asteroid. I'm hit. Rurik shouted, smoke trailing from his fighter. Port engines gone. Stay in the fight, Rurik. Kira barked. The artifact. Almost free. Roken's voice came through. Just a few more, Korin screamed. No. A fail-safe. Removing the heart triggers self-destruct, we have to disarm it from the main console. But it's on the far side of the array. The destroyer's cannons glowed white-hot. Rurik, Kira said, her voice steel, everything you've got left. Hit their bridge. Roarik's crippled fighter surged forward, firing its last missiles in a desperate strike. Point defenses swiveled, locking onto him. Kira drove her ship full throttle into the destroyer's path, guns blazing, drawing its fire. For one terrifying instant, she was the sole target of a warship's fury. The artifact is free. Roken roared. Korin, run. As the destabilizer shields fell, a single, perfect phase torpedo from Soren's fleet streaked in, slamming into the destroyer's reactor. It vanished in a silent, blinding flash. The battle was over. Kira floated in her cockpit, chest heaving, watching the EVA team scramble back to their ship. They had done it. This is Acting Commodore Soren Vale of the Human Expeditionary Force. His voice, calm and steady, went out across every channel. He transmitted everything: Korin's testimony, the schematics of the scythe, the recordings of Helios. We have irrefutable proof that Counselor Trix and his faction attempted to orchestrate stellar genocide. The Concorde is dead. Not by our hands, but by the corruption of its own leaders. The message was a death blow. When Soren's fleet entered Skaran space, the planetary defense grid was offline. The Empire had rotted from within. In the Grand Council chamber, Trix stood on the podium, delivering one last fiery speech. These humans bring only chaos. Will you let them burn our skies? Soren stepped onto the podium beside him. He offers you death, Soren said evenly. I offer you life. Not easy, not glorious, but real. A future you build for yourselves, instead of dying for a past that was stolen from you. Empires always fall, he continued, his voice resonant, unshakable. They rot from the head down. The question is never if, but what we build on the ruins. A tomb for our children to die in. Or a foundation for them to live on. Trix opened his mouth to scream, but the captain of his own honor guard, a scarred veteran named Growl, stepped forward. "We have seen the data from Helios, Counselor," Growl said heavily. "We heard your orders. You are under arrest, for treason against the people." Months later, the Grand Council chamber echoed with shouts and arguments as the new Galactic Federation struggled through its constitutional convention. Soren, weary but resolute, stood between an Aven delegate ranting about atmospheric nitrogen rights and a Silicon ambassador speaking in mathematical proofs. "History offers us lessons," he said calmly. The constitutional debates of 18th-century Earth faced a similar impasse, agricultural versus industrial states. They found compromise. So can we. He was no longer just a warrior. He was a teacher, shaping the future with the lessons of the past. That evening, Avier stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Soren joined her, datapad in hand. "A temporary truce," he said. "Brokered by history." "A small victory," she murmured. "It's all we get these days," he agreed. He turned the datapad. A new message. Another crisis. A formal request for humanitarian aid, food, medical supplies, technical advisors. Trix's own people. The wolves were asking the sheep for help. "What will you tell them?" Avier asked softly. Soren looked out over the sprawling, chaotic, hopeful city. He thought of Lena. Of the miners on Draco Prospect. Of Trix's face, twisted in hate. Then he tapped the console and composed his reply, one word: yes.